I got a call at 2 a.m. in the morning, and I was asked if I was ready and willing and able to join a union, to form a union, since we didn't have a healthcare union in Florida. At the time, we had the Florida Nurses Association leading the contracts at Jackson for us, and these people were also directors at Jackson, the people that formed their directorate. So that was a conflict of interest.
FNA, Jane Mass, was a member of FNA. She was also the person we negotiated across the table at. So it made sense that when we separated, we were much more about the staff nurses and the nurses and healthcare professionals in the trenches at Jackson.
I was here from the inception, working hard to bring SEIU in here. First of all, the union organizers could not be seen on the campus.
When the union started, we had to be kind of quiet.
And when they would come to the unit, we would have to hide them and hide with them and dodge them in order for them not to be thrown off the hospital compound.
We thought we were so clever. No one knew we were having meetings day, noon, and night over there. And of course, everybody knew. The whole hospital, Danny Curry knew. They were all running around.
I would meet them downstairs by the cafeteria. We would go to the bathroom.
We opened an office on 17th Avenue and 16th Street. It was working all night on duty, going there and sleeping for a few hours.
We thought we were quite good, but I guess seeing tons of nurses going over across campus to a place they would normally not be seen wasn't such a smart idea.
Getting up and taking a shower and hitting the road to speak to nurses at the hospital, or at their homes, wherever we needed to meet, we met them. And there was a great acceptance, because we needed better care for our patients, better pay, more respect, and this was going to be the only way.
I remember the day when I felt that the nurses here at Jackson switched from NPO to SEIU. The half-penny sales tax, we had just worked hard on getting it passed. FNA, we were involved in the campaign, and it got passed, and all of a sudden SEIU came on and challenged us and wanted a debate about the half-penny sales tax, because another thing had just happened. We were just finishing up a union contract, and NPO had agreed to no raises, and the nurses were very angry. So it was an opportunity for SEIU. So SEIU asked FNA for a debate. The debate was all set up, and all these nurses came to the debate, and FNA did not show up. And I think that day was when the nurses were so angry when they decided to support SEIU.
Then came time for votes, and that was nerve-wracking.
We had to decertify FNA, and that took 18 months of a campaign with a successful vote of about 800 nurses for SEIU and about 600 nurses for FNA.
The nurses here at Jackson felt really strongly that we needed a voice, and a voice that could be heard.
So there are many things that I would like to tell all of you about the union, but we have to agree that this is an attorney-client confidential discussion. Just stays between all of us. There were times when we had internal bickering. Hard to believe that there would ever be any internal bickering at our union. We're so solidified.
It was difficult. Sometimes we had great disagreements.
Anyway, our then executive director, the late beloved Cheryl Pettit, was actually fired. The police arrived. So I want you to know that at one point, one of our meetings was so calm and so cool and collected that we had to call Metro-Dade Police.
We hashed it out and we went forward.
Cheryl was finally reinstated. Calm came to the stormy waters of 1991. Thank gosh we don't have that anymore. But that was one of the more interesting days to see Cheryl fired and the police on the scene. No one got arrested. There's a rumor that a few people got arrested, but we never bailed them out. They're still in jail.
The good thing in 1991 was that we were able to bring SEIU in, thanks to Victor Maya, who was one of the founders, and it brings back memories. He was a great leader.
Victor Maya needs to be applauded for being the president of our FNA, who took us on this journey to become SEIU. Unfortunately, Victor Maya died during the organizing campaign as a nurse that came out of the OR recovery room at Jackson. But we do need to salute Victor Maya for his leadership in taking us to a bigger, better union and democratic voice for the nurses at Jackson. It was about November of 1992 when we negotiated our first contract and actually got our union certified and had our first executive board. Of course, we were all rookies at this. This SEIU was much more democratically owned and run by the nurses, which left us a little inexperienced compared to FNA. During our first executive board meetings, we didn't even know how to make a motion.
Martha took over, and I remember Martha was like novice in the speaking in public, and she'd be so nervous.
Cheryl Pettit was our first executive director and helped us and mentored us immensely to grow our union to where it is today.
Cheryl was the scout for this union. She was the leader of showing us the way. She took us down the trek and the journey and told us how to do it. And so while Martha has been this leader on one side of the nurses, when you asked where do we go next, where does this movement go next, Cheryl would look up and tell you where the North Star was all the time.
Now to some stories. There are so many stories from so many bargaining negotiations and so many grievances and so many political campaigns that it's hard to remember all of them, but a few come to mind that were especially fun. One of my favorite stories connected to negotiating our contracts came in the late 1990s when we were still bargaining, I believe, with Homer Reed and Danny Curry. And the employer came to the table in a year where things were not that rough at Jackson. And they had pages and pages and pages of takeaways on the table. And every other word they used to explain the reason for these takeaways is that times were tough and we had to be flexible. And we had to be flexible. We must be flexible. And we got pretty tired of hearing how flexible they expected us to be. And at the next bargaining session, we gave them our response. In addition to each of us wearing stickers, each of us and the several thousand workers at Jackson, were stickers that had a picture of the cartoon character Gumby, the little green guy, and they read, "We're not that flexible." We also had join us at the bargaining table a 6-foot-tall Gumby who sat and participated. We made it very clear to them that we were not that flexible. For those of you who know the Gumby character, you can bend him all different ways and put him into a variety of contorted positions. We weren't about to do that. I think people had fun with it. It sent a really clear message, and in that contract we took no concessions.
The first arbitration was salary.
In 1989, my friend from church who was a CPA called me and said, "Marina, your salary is equal to the tomato guy at the corner."
We were able to go to arbitration. Huh? That was a big thing. Huh? Being able to go to arbitration, it might seem like nothing to you, but you don't understand. Huh?
Once we got our first contract, we went from being number 16 in pay in Dade County to number 1 in pay in Dade County.
The nurses union had a great contract. be honest, the professionals, we were a bit arrogant, and we thought that with our degrees that we could speak for ourselves. But we soon realized that we did not truly have a seat at the table. We didn't have a voice. And we saw that the nurses, they had a voice, they were unified, and we wanted to be part of that family, that unity. It was an empowering feeling to sit at that table with the CEOs and the vice presidents and to let them know what we needed to do our jobs, what we needed to provide better patient care.
We were threatened by administration to start replacing us, and consequently by becoming one bargaining unit strong, and by having the backup of all the RNs in SEIU 1991, especially Martha Baker. She was very cooperative through those years, and she still is. And we actually became one unit, unanimous with the same thought.
We had an incident, a very serious incident that occurred on the unit, in which I had to present the information to Labor Relations. There was 2 employees that were involved in the incident, and both of them equally involved in the incident. I brought it up to Labor Relations. Labor Relations didn't even really want to hear about the incident. All they asked me was, are these union members or not? I said, well, this employee is a union member, this employee is not a union member. At that point, they pushed the employee personnel files back at me and told me, this employee, you need to follow the disciplinary action, this employee, you terminate. And I said to them, I said, why? I don't understand this. They said, because the employee who's not a union member does not have an attorney and will not get an attorney. The one that belongs to the union has an attorney and he'll be represented. I just turned to him and I said, you know what, you have made me a union member for life.
Back then we were fighting for just, a collective bargaining and salaries and better work conditions and safety and patient care ratios. Whereas today we find that there's a huge fight. We're basically fighting for our hospital.
As part of the history lesson, we're going to go back to 2008 when we realized that the economy was tanking and that Jackson was in trouble.
Our jewel was being threatened, not only our union, but our public hospital.
Many factors led to this, but we knew that if we were going to sustain Jackson, that the union was going to have to take an active role in going forward.
When we negotiated our contract ending in 2008 of December, that's when Marvin O'Quinn was leaving, and we got our new Dr. Roldan as our CEO. And we started our efficiency task force.
This was ideas from the members to try and improve what's going on at Jackson. Instead of being mandated, do it this way, do it that way, we realized that who knew better as to what to do and how to fix things than the people that actually did it every single day and every single night.
We have become very involved in politics. Our local, every year, have a trip to Tallahassee to make sure our nurses are represented. We made sure that our government listened to the issues of the nurses and the hospital in general. And it's been very rewarding because only through legislature we can obtain the goals for our patients. SEIU is not only the voice for the employees, it's the voice for the community. We don't only fight for the patient, for the staff rights, but for the patients' rights. We are very involved with the community to make sure this hospital maintains its status as a public hospital.
So this trench we've been in, now over 4 years, has been the fight of our lives. Never before in Jackson's 90-plus year history have we had layoffs. We had 3 layoffs in May of 10, in 2011, and again in May of 2012. This is unprecedented. Never before have we had nurses, doctors, and healthcare professionals give back money. We've always been getting raises during negotiations. During this trench, we gave up over 15% in wages to keep Jackson alive and well. It's not about us, it's about our patients for this community, but I do have to take this time to thank all of you for standing strong, for our public hospital. While we're all dead and gone, this place will still be Jackson Health System, alive and well for the public for the next 100 years.
I remember years ago, we in Local 1991, we would say when we grow up, we want to be like the local in New York. You know, we look to them as our mentors. And after joining the local, we were a sea of purple, and the feeling that we got just expanded our chest, because we were a part of this great entity, this movement that was actually sweeping the nation.
This position has been a roller coaster ride and a beautiful sail. It's been a tedious hike, and it's been the creation of a beautiful masterpiece that is continually in progress, and I'm proud to be a part of that.
Sometimes I wonder what Jackson Memorial and the entire JH system would be like if we didn't have 1991. And just think about it. What's a city without police and firefighters? What's a school without educators and support staff? And what is the Jackson without the nurses, the doctors, and the other healthcare professionals? And I believe what it is it would be a set of buildings. It would be a whole set of empty promises. It would be patients who weren't cured. It would be diseases who aren't researched. It would be a loved one whose hand isn't being held when we're telling them of the trauma suffered by their child. We are Jackson Memorial. So when you ask what it would be without us, it's not a question that has an answer. It's obvious. There is no Jackson without us.